Picture this for a moment. The sun is only just stretching awake over Dunedin, the grass is trimmed to within an inch of its life, and the quiet hum of a new baseball season is beginning to breathe. Somewhere between the crack of a bat and the rustle of anticipation, the Toronto Blue Jays are stirring again, and with them, the hopes, nerves, and slightly unhinged optimism of an entire fan base. This is the moment when rumors feel heavier, stories feel louder, and every sideways glance at camp feels like it might mean something. Welcome back, Blue Jays fans, because spring is knocking, and it isn't knocking politely. Here on the Blue Jays Report, this is where we slow everything down just enough to really feel it. We're only days away from spring training games, and the atmosphere already has that familiar buzz, the kind that creeps up on you and refuses to let go. Players are arriving, narratives are colliding, and even the clubhouse seems to be whispering secrets. Before we get into the serious stuff, there's already mischief in the air, because if you need a reminder that baseball players are still glorified kids at heart, just look up the now infamous shoe prank involving George Springer and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Spring training hasn't even started properly, and chaos has already checked in at the front desk. But chaos is only half the story. The other half arrived recently via microphone and a podcast appearance, courtesy of Buck Showalter, who has been doing the rounds and, perhaps knowingly, poking a very specific bruise for Blue Jays fans. Showalter, never one to waste a sentence, has been openly praising the signing of Chris Bassett by the Baltimore Orioles, going so far as to suggest it might be the best move of the entire off-season. You could almost hear the collective teeth grinding north of the border as those words landed. There's something about hearing praise like that from a rival's voice that makes it sting just a little more. Bassett, we know, is no ordinary arm. He's the kind of pitcher who walks to the mound like he's late for a fight and doesn't intend to apologize. He brings leadership, edge, and a competitive snarl that can infect an entire rotation. The question, and it's a fair one, is whether he's worth close to $20 million this season. That answer won't come from spreadsheets or podcasts. It will come under stadium lights, with runners on base and pressure squeezing tight. Baseball has always had a way of demanding proof. Even so, you can't deny the logic behind Baltimore's move. They needed pitching, real pitching, and they went out and got it. Bassett fits them like a glove that's already been broken in by someone else. It still feels surreal that they let Grayson Rodriguez go, a decision that might haunt them, but that's the strange economy of baseball. Every move is a gamble, and sometimes you don't know whether you've won or lost until the cards are already on the table. As we pivot back to Toronto, the conversation inevitably drifts toward youth, because spring training is where prospects stop being names on lists and start becoming shapes in the distance. One of the most intriguing of those shapes belongs to Arjun Nimala, a player whose reputation seems to flicker between electric and enigmatic. Ranked near the very top of the Blue Jays prospect tree, he's expected to get regular, meaningful representatives this spring, and not the polite kind you give a kid to keep him happy. Real innings. Real pressure. Real eyes watching. There's a sense that this spring could be a turning point for Nimala. He's shown flashes that make you sit forward in your seat, power that announces itself before the ball even lands, and defense at shortstop that feels steady and assured. At the same time, there have been questions. Injuries, streakiness, the natural inconsistency of a young player still learning where his limits are. Spring training, especially during the World Baseball Classic period when rosters thin out, offers him a stage. Against Major League pitching, with no script and no safety net, we get to see who he really is. And then there's the name that keeps floating above everything else like a promise that refuses to be ignored. Trey Savage has already tasted the big leagues, already danced under postseason lights, and somehow managed to make it all look almost casual. His debut felt less like an introduction and more like a statement, and his subsequent cruise through the latter stages of the season only reinforced the idea that something special might be happening here. When people talk about the future of this franchise, his name doesn't whisper. It echoes. Depth, though, is where seasons quietly live or die, and the Blue Jays made a subtle but telling move by claiming Ben Cowles off waivers. It's not the kind of headline that sets social media alight, but it's the kind of decision front offices obsess over. Cowles profiles as a player with sneaky pop, solid contact skills, and the versatility that managers adore. Think 10 to 15 home runs, a respectable average, and the ability to plug a hole without drama. In many ways, he mirrors the role that Ernie Clement has carved out, and that's not faint praise. This move also tightens the spotlight on Leo Jimenez, who finds himself out of options and staring down a spring that could define his immediate future. Competition has a way of sharpening focus, and suddenly every at-bat, every routine grounder, carries a little more weight. For a team that's trying to balance contention with sustainability, these internal battles matter. They shape the margins, and margins decide seasons. Youthful promise isn't just about what you see on the field. It's about perception, too, and that's where under-26 rankings enter the conversation. Lists like these, including those put together by Yahoo Sports, aren't gospel, but they do offer a snapshot of how the league sees your future. Seeing Savage ranked among the very best young players in the sport feels validating, a quiet nod that says yes, others see it too. The inclusion of Addison Barger only adds to that sense that there is genuine talent bubbling beneath the surface. Still, the overall team ranking might raise an eyebrow or two. The Blue Jays sitting lower than fans might like is a reminder that reputation is built over time, not overnight. Even the mighty Tampa Bay Rays have found themselves sliding in these projections, proof that no organization is immune to cycles. These lists don't decide games, but they do feed the narrative, and narratives have a way of sticking. Through all of this, through the praise from rivals, the promise of prospects, and the quiet chess moves on the roster, spring training looms like a judge waiting to hear the case. This is where talk meets reality. This is where legs feel heavy, swings feel rusty, and dreams feel just close enough to touch. It's also where fans fall back in love with the sport all over again, because hope is never more powerful than it is in February. If you're enjoying this ride, if you find yourself nodding along or arguing back at your screen, do me a favor and like the video. Share it with a fellow Blue Jays tragic who's already counting down the days. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, because this spring and season are going to give us plenty to talk about. What makes this moment special is the sense that everything is still possible. Bassett might prove Buck Showalter right, or he might remind everyone why Toronto was willing to let him walk. Nimmola might seize his opportunity and force his way into future plans, or he might show us exactly where the work still needs to be done. Savage might continue his ascent and become the face of a new era, or simply take another steady step forward. None of it is written yet, and that's the beauty of it. As spring training games finally begin and the sound of real baseball fills the air again, remember this feeling. Remember the speculation, the laughter over pranks, the mild outrage at rival praise, and the quiet excitement of watching young players chase something bigger than themselves. This is the prologue, and every good story needs one. Thank you, as always, for spending your time here with the Blue Jays Report. Drop your thoughts in the comments, argue your case, make your predictions, and let's enjoy this strange, wonderful build-up together. Baseball is back, hope is alive, and for now, that's more than enough.